if you put it in slightly threaded, or some people I've seen them do it, just thread it in a little bit just to get it off, like just all the way in. Always put it all the way in just to make sure. Well, hello there. Birthdays are a time to reminisce on the year that you just had, and to think about how much your back is hurting, and the fact that every time you wake up it hurts more and more and more. But I've been thinking the last few days about last year when I rode 100 miles for the Ride London event on my 26-inch mountain bike. To say it was hard is a complete understatement. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But I was really impressed with myself. I didn't do a lot of training. I drank lots of beer and rode my bike a normal amount. So maybe I should not do that this year. Interestingly enough, this time last year, I actually was at my parents' house, naturally sat there in Marketplace, scrolling through to see if there's any local bikes in the area, which I do wherever I go, as long as I have a bike carrier on the back of the car, which I often do. But I found this Saracen Andes, and I cannot for the life of me remember how much I paid for it now, but I'm sure it was no more than £20, but I think it was something like a tenner. But it's a bike that I've never mentioned. I bought it literally a year ago now. I think it was on my Instagram a little bit, and I think I've showed it slightly in a video before, but I've never actually talked about it much. And the reason being is when I stripped it down, silly me, I must give away the whole ending of this video. But it didn't get built, and we'll talk about that more in a little bit. But I'm determined to build it. It's I think off the top of my head, it's like a 20 to 22, maybe 23-inch frame. So it's a nice large frame, which if you're a follower of the channel, which if you're not, hit that subscribe button down below, because you're not going to want to miss this build. But I do like a large bike. So it feels like the right one to do. For anybody who's going to ask me what about the last year's bike, it was perfect for the ride. There was nothing wrong with it at all. I absolutely loved it. I rode it constantly until recently, to be honest. And the only reason I'm not going to be riding this year is because it's currently stripped down because I have a special little plan for it. Let's just say somebody's going to be adding metal things to it so we can use it for something. You probably know what I'm trying to say from that. That wasn't a sneaky clue. That was just telling you what I'm going to do into it. Well, anyway, let's move on to the actual bike itself. We're going to strip it down in this video, and then at the end of the video I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of what's next, what I'm going to be adding to it, and kind of like planning the build a little bit. So do stick around to the end. There's lots to cover in this one, and let's go look at the Saracen. I've never owned a Saracen. This is my first Saracen. And here it is, and it is proper crusty. And I'll talk about this in more detail in a bit, but the proper crusty stickers, they're back. But yeah, the rust is next level on some of these parts. The guy said it's been in the garage a long time, but I think it's probably been out in the garden longer. Parts wise, there is quite a lot of nice stuff on here. The actual frame itself is beautiful. The colour probably could be quite nice. Front derailleur, meh, I don't really use those that much anyway. The rear, on the other hand, a nice XT. It's got twist grips at the moment, so I have to change that. The saddle, it's beautiful. The wheels are reasonably true, but they are quite crusty, or proper crusty. And they're a Weinmann, which I think are okay, the rims. And then I think it's a Shimano Alveo. I don't know how to say that out loud. Alveo. So yeah, it's not too bad. Shifting, on the other hand, it's still crispy. Well, it's not, but it shifted well enough for me to get home, which I was quite impressed with. Anyway, should we tear this thing down? Firstly, obviously the chain. The chain is in particularly bad condition. It's quite stretched as well, so there's no way I'm going to keep it. The rear derailleur is absolutely caked in oil and grime. it seems fine. Like the fact that it can still kind of shift reasonably well in the state it's in just goes to show that it's going to be a solid derailleur, so I'm definitely keeping it. It probably won't stay on the build for the 100-mile ride, but it's definitely going to be used for something. Ooh, left that little bit there behind. Wheels will also be coming off this build. I will be keeping them and probably put them on something eventually, but they are a little bit knackered and I don't really trust them for 100 miles. Oh, it's a bit stuck. There he goes. That fork is particularly crusty, isn't it? Like, look at the state of it. Whoa, I mean not as bad as this. This is proper crusty. No, that's the wrong spanner. There he is. Now we're moving on to the cranks, and this is kind of where I started getting a bit nervous. Like, it is super dirty, this bike, and like the corrosion in places is like one of the worst I'd probably seen for a while. But the bolt came out reasonably easy, but that's never the problem. It's when you then move on to the crank, that's when we need to start worrying. If you do have a crank that's super tough, make sure the crank puller is screwed in tight. If you put it in slightly threaded, or some people I've seen them do it, just thread it in a little bit just to get it off, like just all the way in. Always put it all the way in just to make sure. Don't go making any rude jokes about that bit. It's not what I meant. But like I mentioned a little bit earlier on, I do have new stickers. The proper crusty are back in their new form. I had these really long ones before. You guys didn't like them that much. I didn't, to be honest. But these new ones in the very shiny, not so crusty sticker, and the nice orange proper crusty sticker. Those are now available on the website, including a bunch more. There's a big restock on the seatpost stickers. There's a little restock on the Bulky Boy Bike Club stickers. And I just released my birthday bundle, which is this one here that's on my face right now. So there's loads on there. Go check out the link that is down in the description, or it's just saveoldbike.com, and pick up something nice to stick on your bike or your face or a wall or someone else's face, you know, whatever you like. But now we find our first hurdle. Firstly, the best way to get anything out when it comes to the bottom bracket and the cranks is putting it on the ground. If you've got one of these really high quality, robust ground mounted racks or stands, then you're probably fine. But in this case, stick it on the ground. It was super tough. You can't see behind my massively strong arms. But yeah, it took some going, put it that way. But it finally went. There he goes. And it came off with ease. So I became less nervous and felt like, maybe everything will come off quite easily. Alright, that wasn't too bad. That was a little bit tricky, but okay. Surely I won't have issues with the bottom bracket. That will come out okay, right? I'm not losing it here, by the way. I always tighten it a little bit to break the threads and then go the other way. I mean, you want to get your leverage back again, mate. No, not like that. You're making it half yourself. There we go. And to my surprise, it came out reasonably easy. Proper crusty though. Look at the state of that, it's almost luminous. I did give it a real long go with the normal length ratchet on this side,
but it was not budging, not even the teeniest bit, nothing. So I had to pull out the big guns. Oh, that's the stuff. My ass, my arm, my head has been in the way in a lot of these shots. But this was a year ago I was filming this, so, you know, I've improved a lot in a year. Ow. Look at the state of that. At this point, I am starting to get quite concerned about the state of the inside of the frame, but more importantly, the seat post. So here's me reasonably anxious at this stage, taking the seat post out. I took the bolt all the way out. Usually you just loosen it and then just attempt it. I didn't even bother. I took the whole bolt out and then attempted. So, yeah, it's stuck. Just me, contemplating life, wondering how I've got myself into the situation. Again. But I know people are going to say, well, you didn't really give it a lot of work. Well, actually, that was me probably the third or fourth try, but I just hadn't been filming it. I tried lots of different things, including bars and leverage and taking out the stand and doing all sorts of things, and nothing worked. So it is well and truly stuck in there still. So I decided to move on to the rest of the bike, kind of pull off the handlebars and brakes and things. So I flipped it and I filled it with some lubricants and some penetrating oil. That's the word I'm looking for. The cantilever brakes were another part that felt pretty good still. They're really dirty, rusty, crusty. They need a good cleaning and restoring, but they're definitely going to stay in the parts bin. They'll be used eventually, I'm sure. Moving on to the stem and the fork, want to get the bars off and all that good stuff. Generally, if it's got a quill stem, you're in trouble, especially on a build like this. But a 1/1/8 normal kind of fork, you'll be okay. But gosh, it was crusty. But yeah, this bearing here is completely seized on. I say completely, it just needs a bit more whacking, I reckon. I mean, look at that. That's some of the worst corrosion I've ever seen on a fork. I'm surprised I got it off as easy as I did, if anything. But the cups themselves of the headset also pretty stuck in. Yeah, I got them out eventually. The front one was a bit easier.
And there it is. That's where we are right now. And to be fair, I did record that in April, I believe, last year. So almost a whole year ago, I started this bike. But the reason I didn't finish it wasn't just because of the stuck seat post, because we will get it out. That's what the next video will probably be. But it's more about the fact that because I didn't have the time to, and I just wasn't quite sure about a few things, I was worrying that I wouldn't be able to build a bike in time to practice on. I'm starting a little bit early this year. Should have started this last year. But anyway, we're gonna get it done, and it will be my Ride London bike. I hope I didn't just jinx it. But I have tried a couple of extra things just at the end of the summer, actually. I did pop it back in the stand one day when I felt a bit more strong, and give it some good whacking of a hammer and used a bar to turn it. I even got some fire out and went to town on it, which I'm going to probably do a bit more of. But the biggest thing I need is some sort of leverage. There's two options at the moment. I'm going down to Marlon's bike shop. If you're watching this, I'm bringing a bike frame with me next week to do his bike jumble. If you don't know who I'm talking about, go and check out Baby London. He is a awesome custom bike builder, but also has a little bike shop in South London, and he's going to be doing a bike jumble on the 2nd of March. So if you're interested in that and you're in London, come and check it out. I'm going to be down there with some bits to sell, but I'm also going to take a frame down to put in his vise, because he has a big vise in his bench, and try and get that seatbelt out. Seat post. Second to that, I have a lead on someone who potentially has a seat post puller, a device made that will pull the seat post out, essentially. I'm going to go and give them a visit. So it's going to be one of those options. We're going to get the seat post out. The last thing I want to touch on is just kind of like build wise. I've got a few ideas in my head, but I want to kind of like, this won't be probably finished now for a few weeks before I start it again. So we've got time to kind of discuss it down in the comments, what you would be doing on this bike. The fixed slicks that I had on the bike from last year, 100% going on the bike again this year. They were super nice on the bike. Super high rolling, smooth, plenty of grip. It was a very dry day, so hopefully it is dry again, and felt good. Drivetrain was the Advent X. I love that thing. I'm very good at kind of tuning it and kind of getting the indexing quite nicely on it. So like it's just a good all-rounder to have on the bike. I don't have one of those available right now. The ones that I own are going to be either on bikes or already on a bike, so I might have to purchase another one. So if you have a drivetrain suggestion, it's quite flat, the ride. There is a couple of big hills, but mainly it's flat, so I don't need loads and loads of range. But have you got any suggestions? Something that's super cheap, it's not going to cost me too much, but something reliable and easy to set up. Handlebars are the other thing that I need to think about. I'm probably going to go for the Ritchie Coyotes that I had on the other bike as well. But again, we have time to tinker with those things. This is the beauty this time. Like, I've got a little bit more time to tinker and kind of dial it in and make sure it's the right build. But I think that's it for this video. So if you like this kind of content, it is the best time to subscribe to the channel. I've got a couple of builds going on at the moment. We've got this one that we've just starting. I need to finish the cheap bike build off because that's not finished yet. That video will probably come out next weekend, to be honest. And then we also have the cargo bike, the Kona UTE. That will be coming back out of the sheds and being built very soon. So those are the kind of projects I'm working on at the moment. Plus I have a very, very top secret review that I'm doing for a brand that has nothing to do with bikes. But I had an idea and I was like, this would be really, really cool for customizing a bike. And I reached out to a company and they sent me one. I've been playing with it. It's right there right now. And it's going to be a very cool video. So that's also coming out maybe next week. And that's it. Please hit subscribe. It helps me out a bunch. It's totally free and I make videos each week. And if you don't wait or can't wait to the next video, that one there is a particularly good one.